Have you ever tried to herd a group of people who are all trying to go in different directions? It is an incredibly frustrating experience when no one wants to listen or stay together. Maybe you felt this exact chaos leading a school group project or watching younger siblings. When nobody is cooperating, your first instinct is usually to start showing and get bossy. The early Christian churches struggled with this same problem of keeping people moving in the same direction. So one of their key leaders wrote them a letter to help them avoid the chaos. We know it today as the book of 1 Peter, specifically chapter 5. In this letter, Peter uses a simple picture from everyday life to show how a church family should work. He says the church shouldn't act like a random crowd, but rather like a unified flock of sheep, guided gently by caring shepherds. To survive and actually thrive together as part of God's family, the early Christians had to abandon their bossy instincts and learn a completely different approach to teamwork. Peter starts out by giving instructions to the church leaders, the older, wiser members of the group. He tells them to watch over their flock willingly and eagerly. They aren't supposed to take on leadership because they feel forced to do it or because they are greedy for money. A bad leader tries to lord their power over the people around them. Godly leaders do the exact opposite. They are asked to lead by being living examples for the flock to copy. Then Peter gives instructions to the younger members of the church. He asks them to submit to these wise leaders and actively listen to what they have to say. But whether someone is a leader or a follower, Peter says there is one mandatory uniform everyone in the flock must wear: humility. He tells them to clothe yourselves with humility. Wearing humility doesn't mean believing you are a terrible person. It's like taking off the crown of thinking you are the most important person and putting on a plain cloak instead. It simply means choosing not to act like you are better than anyone else, daily lifting others up instead of focusing on yourself. Peter explains that God actively opposes the proud, but he shows favor to the humble. Putting on this specific uniform of humility is the absolute best way to keep the entire flock unified. Now, even in a very healthy, humble group, individual people still experience real fears and stressful worries. Peter knew this. These worries often feel completely overwhelming and burdensome. When we hold on to our anxieties, it's like walking while wearing a massive backpack full of heavy rocks. To fix this, Peter says, "Cast all your anxieties on him." We hand our heaviest worries to God because he cares for you. When we let him carry the weight, we are relieved of that burden and free to move again. Once we deal with our internal worries, we also have to watch out for external dangers. Peter gives an urgent warning to be alert and to stay clear-headed and serious. He compares the enemy, the devil, to a roaring lion pacing through the tall grass around the edges of the flock. This enemy is actively looking for an isolated, distracted target to devour. The defense against this lion is to resist him by standing firm in your faith. And you don't have to do it alone, because the global family of believers is facing those exact same challenges right alongside you. By throwing our heavy internal rocks to God, we free up our energy to stay alert and stand strong against the external lions trying to tear the flock apart. Standing firm in your faith is not always easy. Peter is very honest about this, acknowledging that believers will sometimes undergo suffering for a little while. But he points us toward the God of all grace. God has called believers to share in his eternal glory in Christ, a glory that far outlasts any temporary struggles we face today. God's promise is that he will never leave the flock to struggle alone forever. After a season of hardship, God will personally step in to restore you. This animation shows God's way of fixing and healing things. When we are worn down, God himself works to mend us, taking what is cracked and shaky and making us strong, firm, and steadfast. This future restoration connects directly to the moment when the chief shepherd finally appears. When Christ returns, he will reward faithful leaders and followers alike with a crown of glory that will never fade away. Whether you find yourself leading the group or following, the path forward is clear. We thrive by putting on humility, throwing our heavy worries to God, and standing firmly together under the protection of the chief shepherd.